It's the cinematic event of 2023. Yes,
So
I know it's only February, but still, like, I cannot imagine a single thing coming out the rest of the year that we are going to be as excited about as we were heading into Cocaine Bear.
I was just thrilled to see Elizabeth Banks directing again as a diehard fan of her take on Charlie's Angels. But yes, the premise of Cocaine Bear pretty much sells itself.
Apex predator. High on cocaine.
It's based on a true story. There was a plane in the 1980s that ditched a bunch of its cocaine cargo out over a national forest in Georgia. A black bear consumed so much of it that the coroner said later there was literally no more room in its stomach for anything else, much less more cocaine.
No picnic baskets.
Yes, the bear died, and that's the real story. As Banks and screenwriter Jimmy Warden take it, the bear lives and wants more cocaine and will fuck up anybody that stands between it and more cocaine. And the anybodies in this movie include a vast array of folks: a forest ranger played by Margo Martindale, a nurse played by Keri Russell, drug family kingpin types including O'Shea Jackson Jr. and Alden Ehrenreich. This is a terrifying and hilarious movie. Basically, if Grizzly were sort of melded with like Burn After Reading. I don't even know how quite to describe it, but it's very funny. It spins a lot of plates. It manages this great shift in tone, which is one of the things that I loved about Charlie's Angels, where you can be laughing and still worried and tense about the situation. You can be screaming and cringing at, you know, the bear going bananas, and yet still also find the humor in all of it. So yeah, I had a great time.
I had a great time too. I'm not sure I agree that it bounces all the tones perfectly, because I feel like when it settles down a bit in the third act and it wants us to actually care about these people as human beings and not as potential food, it's not quite as compelling. When it's just like zany and just nonstop graphic gore and like ridiculous laughs and crazy action set pieces. There's a whole tour de force thing with an ambulance and a bear with Depeche Mode's Just Can't Get Enough playing in the background. Like it's so fun and knows exactly what it is. I think when it settles down, it's not quite so effective, and it kind of tends to lag a little bit in like the middle / beginning of the third act there. But for so long, it does what it does so well. Like, I laughed, I screamed, I squirmed. It was a movie that I was excited to go into because just the very idea of it was wild, and the marketing for it was great, between the trailer and like the 8-bit game and just the poster. The poster alone like tells you everything you need to know about this movie. It does what I think Snakes on a Plane aimed to do, but much more effectively. Whereas these really high concept premises, it could have been just like a one joke movie, and Snakes on a Plane was. This does more and more elaborately. The cast is really good. I love Margo Martindale being like a randy, raunchy park ranger. The costume design is great. The production design is great.
Yeah, Margo Martindale's stunt double suffers a lot, and so it's just kind of fun to see her in this kind of role that winds up being very knockabout. I think that the third act works. I think that they lay enough groundwork that you do kind of care about some of these people. Like, there are these kind of character-based moments that pop up that weirdly work. Like, Alden Ehrenreich's character is mourning the death of his wife, and like no one is paying attention to his grief. And then this like punk who they're forcing to like take them to where the cocaine is hidden winds up being this really good sounding board for him and like kind of shoulder to cry on. And it's a moment that I thought landed oddly enough, but it still was funny. And then, you know, once you get to the finale of the sort of last showdown where there's nowhere left to go, I thought that the suspense carried it along, and that you had like characters who were good and deserved to live, and characters who weren't and didn't. And, you know, and so I liked the balance of all that. We should also mention this is one of Ray Liotta's last roles. He's got like 3 other movies in the hopper, I think, that are still in post-production that'll be coming out, but this is one of his final roles, and the film is dedicated to him.
Yeah, and it's sort of a nice tie back to Goodfellas.
Yeah, and to
like,
Hannibal.
Yeah, and like the leather blazer he's wearing and like the smoked aviators, it's definitely like a connection to the later parts of Goodfellas there. Yeah, that's Aaron Holiday is the actor you're talking about, who is like the doofus teenager who is more sensitive than he initially appears. And yeah, that is surprising. I liked Scott Seiss as one of the paramedics who come in. He's very, very funny.
Brooklyn Prince from Florida Project.
Yeah, Brooklyn Prince. And the other kid's name is Christian Convery.
Yes.
And I love how they feel like real kids who curse and are trying to have this swagger that isn't really earned because they're 12 or 13 years old. They're the kind of kids that, you know, they would write in like the Bad News Bears or the Goonies, like the kind of kids that you don't see in movies anymore, but like they talk like kids actually talk. And that felt kind of refreshing in a throwback sort of way. Yeah. Brooklyn Prince is really good. Isiah Whitlock Jr.
Yes.
I actually did feel for him. He accomplishes more with just one long groan than like most of the dialogue accomplishes. Like there's one moment where he's like, and it's so funny. Yeah. Everyone's really good in this, you know, because they're all totally taking this seriously. They know what movie it is, but they're taking it seriously.
Yes. Jesse Tyler Ferguson has one of the worst wigs I've ever seen.
So bad.
I didn't recognize him for a good chunk of his performance. I was like, oh, wait a minute. Oh, that's who that is.
Yeah. I couldn't place it either. We should talk about special effects too, because it's actually surprisingly high tech for a very silly, cheesy movie. They went to like Weta, like Peter Jackson's VFX house. And there's an actor doing actual motion capture in the performance. And like, he's a disciple of Andy Serkis. And so the fur, you know, looks very tactile, and they anthropomorphize the bear in a way that is so like knowingly extreme. Like they assigned so much like human desire and drive, but then the things that they had the bear do are so silly. Like the ways that it moves are really amped up compared to actual bear movements.
Some genuinely terrifying moments too, though.
Yeah.
Where like you get these close-ups of the bear with just like viscera hanging out of its matted fur, and it's just like, ah.
Yeah, there's a thing that happens with a guy hanging off of a tree, and the bear is like doing something with the guy in the tree, and like that's pretty gnarly. But then, like a second later, the bear will do a line of cocaine off the guy's severed leg, right? So it's that kind of movie that it like tries to shift around like that. Anyway, I had a really good time, but a lot of why I had a really good time is because we saw this in a very packed audience. I would say very highly. If you're going to go see it, this is not a movie to watch by yourself on the couch at like 3:00 in the afternoon on a rainy day. You'll be amused, but I don't think the experience will be the same as seeing it with people.
For sure, which I think is kind of the same deal with Violent Night, you know, which I think this movie has a lot in common with. But you're right. It is definitely a crowd-pleasing experience. But we had a blast, and I think if you, under the right circumstances, and if you're open to it, you will too.
What's your number?
I said 8.8.
Okay, I'm going to say an 8, but don't think that I'm like hesitant at all in recommending this. I'm not. You're going to have so much fun. So go check it out and let us know how it goes. Rawr.